This is Wellness Unlocked, your space for smart, honest conversations about what it really takes to feel your best.
We're your hosts, Sally and Maha, founders of a global wellness brand. In every single episode, we're going to bring you forward thinkers and innovators from the wellness world, those who can help you unpack the best in wellness tips.
If you're ready to upgrade your life, then you're in the right place. Hi everyone, Maha here. Today I am answering some of your most asked questions. So you have all been submitting questions into our inbox on the regular since we launched the podcast, and finally I am doing an Ask Me Anything to answer those. So let's jump in. First question that came through was, what's a habit that you've adopted that you believe has changed your life? So I think for me, probably the biggest one has been adopting a low-tox kind of lifestyle. And how that came about really was when my eldest child, my son Joshua, was about 2 and he had a speech delay, and that kind of, led us down a path in terms of really looking at his overall health and well-being and his development. And ultimately what came out of that was an autism diagnosis. But every time I took him to an appointment, there were always, like a medical appointment or a therapy appointment, there were always a lot of questions around his gut health and what his gut health was like, and what was his diet like, and what was food like for him, or what was his eating style like, and also a lot around stress. And had there been stress in the pregnancy, in the birth, had there been any illnesses since birth, etc., etc. And ultimately, through a process over the following kind of 2+ years, a lot of it really came back to looking at ways that we could improve his gut health, which was pretty poor, so that we could support him as best we could with nutrition and also, with reducing inflammation in the body. And what I started to discover, because bear in mind, I've always been somebody who has been a healthy eater. I've always had, quite a varied diet. I've always leaned into whole foods. I mean, Sally and I wrote 5 cookbooks. So, eating healthy is not a concept that's sort of foreign to me. But when I started to really look at what we had both in the fridge, like foods we ate, and in the pantry in particular, and also like what we used around the home in terms of like cleaning products, etc., I began to really notice just how full of chemicals really, honestly, everything is. And so everything from, when you start to look at the back of packets and you realize that you don't recognize a lot of the ingredients, or there's a lot of numbers on there, and just starting to kind of go down that path of saying, okay, if we're to support him in this, and also our family, because it's not just like his gut health, if we can improve our own gut health, myself included, then why wouldn't we be doing that? So avoiding processed foods, really reading the labels on everything. And when I started to look at the cleaning products and going, so many of these have warnings that if you touch them or if you get them in your eyes, like it's a poison, and call the poisons line. I'm like, what is actually in these and what are they doing to us? Like when you think about how many chemicals we actually are ingesting on a daily basis, whether it's through our cleaning products, through our, some of our makeup, whether it's through, our foods, etc., it really does add up. And so trying to reduce that toxic load, that chemical load, has been a really critical thing for our family that over time I've kind of just tackled bit by bit where I can. And then over time, I feel like we've been able to do that. And as a result, I've really noticed his gut health has improved, and we've done various stool tests and etc. And so we've been able to measure it as well and to look at it that way. And I feel like that has had a really huge impact on him and on his development, which has come along really in leaps and bounds over the last 12 months. And in terms of like the products I use, I guess I know you'll ask me, so I want to be able to call it out. But in terms of like the cleaning products, like Wash Wild is one that is a go-to for me. And they do everything from like laundry detergent to dishwashing detergent. Everything that they make is made from plants. And what I really love about this brand is that even on their website, they have a detailed explanation of all of the ingredients. So it's all of the ingredients they use and explaining what they are, and all of the ingredients they avoid and explaining why. So I love that kind of transparency when it comes to knowing like what you're actually, putting into your home, putting onto your skin, etc. So that kind of low tox life, and as time has gone on, beyond the cleaning products and beyond food, it has been about making sure we have very clean filtered water, and making sure that the next sort of stage of that for us will be around looking at home filtration in terms of air filtration and air purification. So I've got my eye on some purification machines for home. So I'm happy to talk about this in way more detail, but I think just in terms of the thing that's had the biggest shift, for him, but also for us. And just on this while I think of it, the other reason that I think this is so important is because the chemicals aren't just chemicals, they also mess with your hormones, right? So a lot of these things are endocrine disruptors. They mess with our hormones and I think it's like so important. I've got a daughter as well. And so I think it's so important for me, for her, for our whole family. You want to know what's going into your body at the end of the day. That's that one. Okay, next question is, what eating style or diet do you adopt? I would say largely it's what I would call Mediterranean diet. So nothing is kind of off limits for me. I like to eat a really great mix of, lean proteins, loads of veggies, some carbs, etc. I think that I think with diets or eating styles, it's about finding the thing that works best for you and for your body. One thing I am interested in is trying to increase the amount of just trying different stuff. So, for example, I've heard about the benefits of raw milk. So that's something that I think I want to look into next. But I really try to have a very large variety of plants. So many of us have fiber deficient, and so you really want to increase that, as many plants as possible. Next question. What's one thing about wellness that you believe is under talked about or misunderstood? So just on diets, I think for me, the thing that is most misunderstood is that having a healthy diet is just not enough in this day and age. So time and time again, I will see people on social media like saying, you don't need supplements, like just have a healthy diet. And I am all for a healthy diet. I take nothing away from that. But saying that is enough in this day and age, and particularly as we get older, I really don't believe is enough, because at the end of the day, the quality of our soil, the quality of our water, the quality of our fruits and vegetables, when they're picked, when they're put into the supermarket, what they're sprayed with, even like meats, etc., like the quality is just not what it used to be. So saying that you can get all of your nutrients and all of your vitamins, etc., from diet alone, I believe is total BS. And I think as well, you want to supplement, because as you get older, so many things that are going on in your body are in depletion mode or in decline. So for example, we talk a lot at SWIISH about our NAD levels. So essentially they decline as you get older. NAD is responsible for over 400 different cellular functions. And it really supplementing NAD slows down the age and the kind of damage, to your cells. That's something that you can't get from your diet alone. So if you want your cells to age more healthily, if you want to get more life out of the years that you have, then supplementing NAD is so critical. Even our super greens, which is something that I have every single day, like that's 40 ingredients, that's 40 vegetables and fruits and prebiotics and probiotics and superfoods that I'm not getting from my diet every day. And again, the benefit of that is that it's got all those incredible polyphenols that feed your good gut bacteria. And again, coming back to fiber, which helps remove old toxins, move our digestion along, kickstart our digestion, move things out of our body. Like it's so, so, so critical.
Finance are spewing with you. They actually want to speak to you about your corporate card.
Yeah, I love my corporate card.
No,
Why
you
would
cannot,
they be so upset?
You cannot use it to go to Priceline, right, and just tap and buy all the sweet. No, you cannot buy.
I do.
You can get sweet. These guys can get Swish at Priceline.
Me too, I can.
Yes, you can too, but with your personal card. You cannot use your corporate card and tap, 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 tap everywhere you go.
Yes, I can go to 500 Priceline stores and I can tap, tap, tap at all of them with my credit card and my sister club card. I'm a pink diamond member.
Oh, 500 Priceline stores. You can get Swish at any of them.
That's right. Pretty impressive.
Okay, get something for me next time.
I will.
So you guys know anything that I can do to upgrade or elevate my wellness routine, I'll definitely do, especially if it helps me feel more grounded or calmer. And so this year I got a Soleil sauna at home. It was an investment, but it's definitely one that I feel like has paid off immensely because basically at the end of every night, I take 10 or 15 minutes, I get in the sauna and I just completely switch off. And having that time out mentally has been amazing, but also the physical benefits of an infrared sauna have been second to none. Now, I specifically chose Soleil Sauna because I wanted one that did not use any toxic paint. That's really, really important. And it's also an Australian brand. So 2 big ticks in my book.
So supplements, I think, are incredibly important. And you don't have to take a million of them. You can choose, really what's right for you. But saying that diet is enough, I mean, God, perimenopause is another one. Having calcium, if I said to you just eat cheese, I don't think that is the answer for your bone health. You really need to be supplementing, particularly because bone loss accelerates as you get older at a rate that's far faster than bone formation. So having a calcium with a vitamin D and K2 is absolutely critical. That's why I'm so passionate about supplementing, because diet is amazing, but supplementing ensures that you're looking after yourself, you're protecting yourself for the future, and you're doing everything you can that is in your control to feel your best at all times as you go through life. Next question is, what is a mindset that you're currently working on improving and why does it matter to you? I think for me, the biggest one that I'm working on is this concept where I find myself saying that there isn't enough time for me and for my kind of self-care. So I need to challenge myself a little bit on this because I really believe that the stories that you tell yourself are kind of true until you decide to change the story. This is something that has come up for me often in life. So for example, for many, many years, I had this belief that I was alone and I'd always be alone and that would never change. But I really had to ask myself if that was true and if that kind of mindset was the healthiest thing for me. And this sort of narrative or these stories that we tell ourselves, they're often negative ones, to be honest. And so I think this thing that I have found myself recently where I'm like, oh yeah, by the time I kind of finish looking after everybody else, there's just no time for me. And that's okay. It's just this stage of life. And to some extent, sure, I've got 2 young kids and I have a business. There is an element of that's true, but also it is in my power to change that if looking after myself is something that's important enough to do. So that is the mindset shift I'm working on. And if you, I'd love for you, I mean, I'm going to keep myself accountable, but I'd love for you to keep me accountable too. So if you see me on socials ever saying there's no time, just call me out and say that's BS. You need to, I hate the expression, put your own oxygen mask on first. But there is a little bit of truth in that everybody around you, when you're thriving, everybody else around you thrives as well. Okay, I really liked this question because it requires I don't know, the person who asked, I really felt like this was top of mind for them. How do you stay consistent with health and mindset when life is hard and heavy at times? So let me just preface this by saying I've probably had the hardest year, and the hardest year with my little boy who, for about 6 months of this year was experiencing the most intense dysregulation. Sorry. All good. The challenges of being a parent to an autistic child are really big. And for anybody who is, thank you. I'm okay. I've got it together. Thank you. I've got it together. It's okay. For anybody who's going through this journey, if you're new to this journey, I feel for you, because it's every emotion under the sun all at once, all the time. It's grief and joy, and it's resilience, and it's vulnerability, and it's sadness, and it's happiness, and it's pride. Like, it's literally everything every single day, all at the same time. So we've had the hardest year because his emotional dysregulation has been very high. And he's a headbanger, so he likes to run at surfaces and doesn't really discriminate between, carpet and concrete, and everything in between. And so managing that has been incredibly challenging. And so I understand when you say life can be heavy, because, as a parent, you want to protect your children from any type of pain. I mean, he doesn't even seem to be in pain. He's totally fine, physically. But, so I understand. And I think the first thing I would say is allow the feelings, because there's no point in trying to brush them aside or minimize them or say that other people's suffering is worse. It's not a competition. So allow the feelings. And then I think for me, once I've acknowledged that, I get to the stage where I say, like, you've got a choice to make here. This is your life, and you have a choice to make. You can embrace it and learn the lessons and roll with it and try to see the beauty in everything. Or you can just stay wallowing, and so I really try to make the choice. And what I've also found is that just what I call doing the things, like just do the things, and then at some stage the feelings start to shift and to follow. So just for me, just deciding to go to bed earlier, to take my supplements, to speak to somebody about how I'm feeling, because, sometimes a problem shared is a problem halved. Reaching out to community, and people for support. And then just doing those things, you start to feel lighter, and you start to then be able to feel like you can cope. And I think then staying consistent with your health becomes easier, because you're just in a better kind of frame of mind. And for us, what shifted, it was the worst 6 months. And what shifted for us after that was by sharing more, there was more support, from people saying like, we'll help you. I'll sit with you. I'll bring you a coffee, like anything. There was also more support, I guess, for us from therapy. We did, we kind of did more things, and then over time they had a better outcome, I guess, for our family. And so now he's in a place where he's much more regulated, and partially because I'm much more regulated. And I have started to see him as the magical creature that he really is, if that makes sense. So I don't know if that helps, but I hope it does. Okay. How has building a business shaped your identity, both personally and professionally? Look, heaps. SWIISH is means so much to me, and a lot of that is about doing things that make you feel your best, creating things that make you feel your best, making you feel like, there's a place for you to come to. There are products for you to use. There are so many ways to help you feel more confident, healthier, happier. That means so much to me. The connection that we have with our community means everything to me. Working with my sister means everything to me. So it has shaped me in the sense that I could never see myself doing anything else. And it has also required a lot of resilience, a lot of late nights, a lot of sacrifices, both in terms of time and financially, in order to grow this business, to build this business, to create products, and to do it the way we want to do it, in a way that is very heart-led, but also very efficacious with our products. Like, it's so important to us and we don't take shortcuts. And, that means a lot of sacrifices. And so I'm really proud of us and I'm really proud of the brand and I'm proud of our community for always, showing up and wanting to kind of do their best and be their best. And so I guess it has given me identity in the sense of purpose and yeah, I've grown up, I think is how I'd describe it. Even though I'm still 21, obviously. What would you tell a woman who feels behind in life? Look, as a late bloomer who got married at age 40, had kids at like 42 and 44, and still feels like I'm 18 mentally, there's no such thing as behind. There's no timelines. There's no that's the great thing about life. You can really start anytime you want. You can go back and do it again. You can change careers. You can travel. You can, really I love the quote, you're only ever one decision away from a completely different life. There is no behind. There's just now. And it's just what you make of it. Has working in wellness ever made you feel pressured to maintain a certain image, and how do you handle that? I think a little bit. I mean, kind of, I don't sort of care about how I'm perceived, I guess. Maybe because I've always just been a bit more of a quirky, intense personality. Sally's laughing off camera. So I sort of think over time you just go, that's just who I am. It's okay. And, you've got your tribe. But I do think there's an element of, particularly with social media these days, like you can really spend a lot of time comparing yourself to everybody. But I think it's just about being true to your values and just asking yourself, like, what kind of life do I want to have? What kind of person do I want to be? Like, I think the pressure is more from me as opposed to from anybody else about how, like, what my image would be. But I think that's more just from a place of like, I want to feel my best as opposed to I need to look a certain way, if that makes sense. And look, it's a funny thing growing up with a sibling who's, in the media and in the limelight and, and people are always talking about what she's doing or how she looks or, what she's wearing or whatever. And it's like, because I know who we are at the core of it at the end of the day, that also gives you perspective that like, that's all like lovely glitz and glam, but it's not a reflection of who you are. And to me, I think I'm more interested in being healthy and being around for a long time and being my best for my kids than I am about meeting somebody else's definition of how I should look. What made you decide to freeze your eggs and how did you navigate that time? So when I froze my eggs, I was 37, really wanted to have a baby, super close to my nieces. And look, I was single for most of my 30s and I wasn't sure what was going to happen. And at the time, like, egg freezing was not spoken about the way that it is now. Nobody else was doing it. I didn't know anyone who had done it. But it was something that I wanted to do because I just wasn't sure of the future. And it felt like something that a decision I could make for myself, for my future self. And at the time, and I'm pretty sure this is still the case, it was not covered under any type of like Medicare because if you're single and you freeze your eggs, it's elective. So one round was about $12,000 and this is going back almost 10 years, so it's probably more now. And I felt really proud is how I felt. I felt really proud that I did something for me and something that I could look back and either use them if I decided to have a baby on my own, which was a path I started to go down before Matthew and I got together, or that if I needed them down the track with a partner, that I had them there. And what I would say is I wish at the time there had been way more people talking about this and sharing their experiences and sharing the costs, because if I'd known how much it was going to cost. And I was very lucky to only have to do one round, but I've subsequently heard of people having to do 3, 4, 5 rounds, etc., to get some eggs, and knowing the cost, like I think I wish I'd known in my 20s, and maybe I would have put some money aside just in case, which I didn't do. This is interesting. How do you protect your child's dignity and privacy while still sharing your journey to help others? So coming back to what I was touching on before with my son, I think it's really, I don't share, this is something I struggle with. I don't share a great deal on social media, like with him or about him, but I also want people who are new to a neurodivergent parenting experience to feel seen, or that they can always reach out. So I haven't quite figured out the balance, because ultimately I want to put wellness content out there, and I want to, talk about SWIISH and about wellness, but that is definitely an aspect. I don't really want him to be in it because that's his story and his journey, but I do feel like there's still something for me to work on there around helping anybody who's going through the same thing. So if you are, please reach out. I will always be here. What advice would you give someone wanting to start a business? Oof. Buckle up. Listen, just go searching on Instagram for memes about entrepreneurs, okay? And you'll see they're all like this. Look, it's the best thing. You never have to ask anybody for permission for anything. Your kid's sick? Great. I don't go. I'm tired today? No problem. Although I still go when I'm tired. But you don't ever have to ask permission for anything. And that does come in handy, right? So being your own boss has a lot of benefits. However, you need to know, depending on what type of business it is, right? Generally, it takes longer than you think to kind of get going. It costs way more than you think to get going. And ultimately, I think you have to be prepared for the sacrifices. It is 100% a game of how many times can I pick myself back up and keep going? What can I learn? How can I improve? How can I do this better? How far are you really willing to go to be successful and to make it work? I do think that's a big part of it. And I've had some friends tell me they want to start businesses, and when I start talking to them about trademarks and accounting and legal, and their eyes glaze over because they're like, no, I just wanted to do the creative fun bit. And I'm like, that's cool. That's a hobby. That's not a business. There's lots of drudgery as much as there is lots of creativity and amazing fun stuff. So the advice I have is just start, because times are ticking, and you're never going to know if your passion project could be a big success on a bigger scale unless you just start. But sort out your trademarks first. Get your, it's not just the website name. It's do all the legals and the accounting, and then, but just do them. Just start. How do you and Sally navigate disagreements lovingly? Are they lovingly? We have an older sister, younger sister dynamic, right, which I really think plays into everything, and we're very different. And what is different about us makes us great together. So Sally is very fast. She likes to take a lot of risks, and she's very determined, headstrong, stubborn, some might say, and some me. But she has a lot of heart. She's fiercely loyal, and she works really hard. She's really smart. She's also incredibly funny. I'm funnier, but still. And I am much slower. She tells me I talk too slowly all the time. I'm much more risk averse, but I'm more measured, right? And I feel like I've got the ability to see the big picture, but also what's happening now today. And so a lot of this causes friction. Plus, she's the older sister, I'm the younger sister. So to some extent, I'm used to her telling me what to do and trying to get her way. So if there's something I'm super passionate about, I will kind of dig my heels in. And I think for the most part, like there's no ego in any of it because everything we do is for our community, for SWIISH, for you. Most disagreements don't last long. They're like bickering and then we kind of, resolve and move on. A couple have lasted like a while. And there was one earlier this year that kind of, I think, really shook us for a few days. But at the end of the day, it's the same thing. What do we care about? Our community. We care about our products. We care about giving you the best possible supplements we can, helping you feel amazing. And anything else, like I took our disagreement as reflection on things that I might need to work on, and that's okay. Hopefully she did the same. We'll see. I can say that because she's here. Yeah. And so it's just, also remembering that she had a health battle really puts things in perspective. You just don't sweat the small stuff. And as somebody who watched her sister go through the most horrific cancer battle, at the end of the day, our relationship is more important than anything. Yeah. Love is always at the forefront. What has SWIISH taught you about yourself? I am smart. I am resilient. I am strong. When we first started SWIISH, because Sally had come from like a media career and I had come from investment banking in HR, I wasn't 100% sure what I would bring to the table. And we hadn't exactly mapped out what the business was. We're like, let's just do something that makes people feel amazing. And we didn't really know exactly what that was. And I struggled at first to go, well, what am I actually bringing to this? And I forced myself to write a bio, in the third person, about myself, that really articulated what my strengths were and what I had done in my career that I could bring, to this new brand and to this business. And so it taught me that every experience that you have in your life is valuable because, it can be used in some way in future experiences. So, leadership, teamwork, basically hustle with heart, for want of a better word, all of those things are what you bring. So it has taught me that, every experience is a valuable one and that ultimately, you literally can do anything you want if you put your mind to it and if you just decide, and you might as well give it a go because it could turn out to be the best thing that you ever did. That's it, guys. That's a wrap. So, hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully I answered all your questions, and we'll do another one soon. Bye. If you enjoyed this episode, then make sure you subscribe, download, share, all the things.
All of the things. And of course, everything you need to know is in the show notes. If you need any more information, don't hesitate to find us at swiish.com. And as always, all the information provided is general information and not medical advice.